Hello everyone, welcome to the therapy floor. I am Dr. Ritz and this is Dr. Vicky.
Hi. We are on the floor getting deep into the human experience, unpacking everyday dilemmas through the lens of two psychologists.
Let's get unpacking with today's dilemmas.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is from a female in her 40s. She says, I have an important decision to make. It's like I have two voices in my head. One very excited and optimistic saying go for it. And the other one just as loud saying don't be silly, don't do it, it's not going to work out. How do I know which one to listen to?
Oh, okay. Not much context there.
No, I wonder
as
what
to
she's
what
kind of...
she's trying to do, what she's trying to decide. But very clear that she's conflicted and she has these two voices. So, because she's not giving us much context, I want to immediately go into like problem solving mode and thinking about pros and cons of the decision that she's trying to make and thinking about things quite rationally and logically. Because I don't know her history and how she typically makes decisions. I think that's probably where I'd start with. So what is it that you're trying to do? Why is it that you're wanting to go ahead with it? What are the pros and cons of listening to either voice? You could start there, but then also really tap into what is your body saying. Our bodies can give us such clues into what we really want to do and what feels right sometimes. So when you can't rationally think of a decision and logically think your way through, pay attention to how does your body feel when you think about listening to one voice versus listening to the other. Does your heart rate go faster? Does it slow down? Do you feel tight in your chest? Do you clench up? Do you feel free and relaxed and at peace? I think that's kind of the first thing I want to pose back to this person. What's coming up for you?
I really like the idea of what you said about the body and, you know, working with those somatic experiences. I think, you know, there's so much research out there that's going on at the moment about gut work and about how much information lies in our guts and in the muscle memory of our body, like just in general. And paying more attention to that. I think sometimes we're so in autopilot mode and caught up in this train of thought that's just going. And often we think, right, just because I think something, it must be true. Which I'm going to come back to that one. But coming back to the body, I think in order to be more in tune with our bodies, we'll kind of have to let go of those trains, slow down, and fine-tune what exactly our body might be trying to say to us. Where is it coming from? I often ask my patients, you know, with their bodies, if it's coming from, let's say, the gut or the stomach or the chest or the heart, like if that part could talk, what would it say? What tone would it have? How would it speak to you? Why do you think it's trying to give you this information? What's going on there?
I think that's a good idea. It also reminds me of work that we do with children who necessarily don't have the words to express how they're feeling, but they can point to parts in their body.
This is it.
You know, they can point to sadness because they have like a lump in their throat. They can point to anxiety because they have like butterflies in their stomach or clenched fists when they're angry. So paying attention to the wisdom of your body can aid you in decision making.
And one thing like I wanted to just kind of pick up on there is I think that's quite beautiful, isn't it? Like children might not have the words and sometimes as adults we have too many words. Right? Too many words. That's what this lady is saying. I've got two pieces of commentary going on in my head that I can't pick which one. So she's almost like at the opposite end of the spectrum here. So coming back to this idea of muscle memory in the body. So, you know, as we're developing and growing, especially like in our younger years, in our informative years, we might not necessarily remember things that have happened to us or things that are said to us or experiences that we've had, but the neurons in those muscles in our body, they pick those up and they get stored. So often, like, we can have an experience that feels really familiar, but we can't necessarily recall the memory to it, but that's that real visceral bodily reaction from that muscle memory that's being stored, that's trying to give you that information. So I wonder if something like that is happening here, where she's maybe, part of her is excited, she wants to go for something, but there's this like warning coming up within her, this trigger that's saying, from quite a negative narrative, saying don't do it, don't go for it.
And she could tap into that
I
to
think
see
so.
if there is something familiar here going on. I think this reminds me of that book, The Body Holds the Score, which really looks into trauma responses and how trauma is held within the body. But I'm also thinking about these voices being very polar opposite. So one being very encouraging, very positive, and almost giving like her a can-do attitude, and the other being very critical, like don't be silly. That's quite, because it's not necessarily like the voice is telling her, are you sure? Do you want to think about this? The words or the tone is very, not punitive, but very critical, almost like, telling her off, like, don't be silly.
Like, you can't do this. Why did you even think you could do this?
Yeah. And then what do we always like to do? We always like to think about, okay, where did that come from?
Whose voice is that?
Whose voice is
When
that?
did you first hear that voice?
Who do these voices represent in your life?
I also like to ask people, when you hear that, how old do you feel?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, what age
Yeah.
do you feel when someone says that to you, or when that voice is going on?
Yeah.
And I feel like that can sometimes help tap into where they are in their lifespan, where that voice started to become quite prominent in their life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, were they like age 5, were they age 10, were they a teenager, were they in their 20s, they're learning about adulthood, they're trying out new things. So I think age is a really great way of tapping into where you might be in terms of how you're talking to yourself, and then asking yourself, because she kind of said, what did you say, is this the right, I've got it here, haven't I? She asked me, how do I know which one to listen to? And I would say, well, let's put an age on both of those voices. So if the one that's cheering you on feels quite present, so she said that she's in her 40s, does it feel like in your 40s? Well, what about the one that's quite negative? How old do you feel when you hear that voice? And she might say 10, or she might say, I don't know, 15. And then I guess my question to her would be, so you're 40 now, which voice feels right to you right now? Does the 10-year-old who's being spoken to feel right? Or does the 40-year-old feel right?
And another thing that we could pose to her is, how, if this was someone else that was trying to make this decision and they heard a similar voice, what would you advise them to do? And how would you help them arrive at that decision? Would you use similar words? Like, would you be either one or the other? Like being like very encouraging, like, yeah, go for it, you can do it. Or would you be quite dismissive in your language, telling your friend to, like, are you sure? Like, don't be silly. Like, what feels right for you?
I feel like we already know the answer to that, don't we? Like, she's going to turn around and say, well, of course I wouldn't say that. And so many times when I've spoken to people and I put it back to them and I ask them, would you speak to a friend in this way? And they say, absolutely not. And I kind of challenge them and say, well, why not? And the answer is, well, because that's bullying. So why is it okay to bully yourself? Like, where is that coming from? That bullying leads to success. Because it doesn't.
No.
I actually think it leads to burnout.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't lead to anything good. And, you know, how can you pose this question differently? Like if you wanted to arrive at a decision and you were speaking to someone else, would you help them think about it in a more measured way, in a more compassionate way? So even if you did have concerns about the decision they were making, you'd say, okay, have you considered this? Have you considered that? What about this? And then that's very different, isn't it? That's a very different voice that you're listening to. So maybe you need to ask yourself, how can you rephrase these voices, or how can you reframe these voices
to get her to think,
to get you to
because
think,
I guess that's what she's saying is I need to think about this decision, but the way that I'm thinking isn't necessarily helping me. You know, it's quite black and white. It's either like, woohoo, I'm supporting you, or I'm gonna come down on you. There's not really there's no, like, as you said, compassionate challenging.
No. Or a more realistic voice. So when we use cognitive behavioural therapy to get people to challenge their negative thinking, we like to encourage them to think of a more realistic thought, right? So, for example, someone may have the thought, oh my goodness, I'm useless, I'm going to fail at this. It's my first time doing it. I'm terrible. I'm going to fail. So we would get them to challenge that negative belief or that negative thought, not by thinking of the complete opposite, which is, no, you're going to be amazing. You're going to be fantastic, because that's not realistic. It's what's the in-between here? How can you have a more realistic thought or belief that is compassionate, but also grounded in reality a little bit? So that voice or that thought could be, I may find this difficult because it's my first time, but I'm going to give it a go and learn from my mistakes. That's a more realistic, balanced thought to have. So maybe that's also something that is missing in this.
Yeah, the balanced thinking.
Yeah.
I really like that, actually. I wonder if she's ever had an experience of that before.
Yeah.
Of someone showing her what that looks like.
Yeah.
Someone speaking to her in that way.
Yeah. And if she has, then it's easier to imagine that person, isn't it? And to say, okay, what would this person say in this situation?
Yeah.
And then being that person or that voice for herself.
Because the balanced voice doesn't necessarily have to have the answer.
No.
I think it's just about, as you said, it's about keeping grounded and being able to go through that experience and know that, well, I don't know what the outcome's going to be necessarily. I don't know if I'm going to fail. I don't know if I'm going to do well. But if the worst case does happen, I'll be okay. Yeah. I think sometimes it can be hard for people to hold other people or themselves when something doesn't feel okay.
Say more.
Like you see the answer there is like, yeah, go for it. It's like, it's going to work out. Like, I know it's going to work out. Or I know it's not going to work out. But that, you know, that almost, that in between, I don't know whether it's going to work out or not, but I believe in you. That that you will get through it.
It will be okay.
And I guess what I'm saying is that holding space of that unsurety, that the situation is unsure, but I'm not in you.
Yeah, that confidence. In yourself. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Okay. Well, I hope that's been helpful for you.
Yeah, I hope that answers at least something, because it was quite not much to it.
Yeah.
So we've taken it down a few different roads.
Yeah.
But hopefully...
hopefully one of them sparks some thought for you.
Great. Should we move on to the next one?
Let's do it. Okay, so this comes from a 25-year-old woman, and she says, the guy I'm dating is amazing, in capital letters, so ambitious, so dedicated to his faith. His new ventures have really affected how much time we see each other. He's aware and we speak about it, but for now, nothing can really change. I'm trying to be patient, but I do feel like he needs to try and find a balance. What are you thinking, Ritz?
Well, firstly, I love that she's hyping up her man.
Yeah.
That's lovely to see, isn't it, in a relationship, when you see the other part of the couple just talking so beautifully.
Yeah, it's like she's really celebrating
what she admires about him.
Yeah, and what he's doing and his path in life.
Yeah, I love that. But do you remember what I said? Like, I love a contradiction.
Yeah.
I feel like she's contradicting herself a little bit here.
Okay.
I feel like what she's maybe saying, or what I'm hearing, is like, we're talking and I understand, like, right now I just have to be patient. But he needs to get a move on. So she's not really being patient.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, you know how we were talking about that, sometimes you're in that middle ground and it just feels a bit tricky. You know where you need to get to, but where you are just doesn't feel comfortable, and you want to get moving. You want to get people around you moving. I think she's finding that hard.
Yeah, understandably so. Understandably so. Like when you are just really happy in your relationship and you love being with that person, you're inspired by them, you admire them, you really respect them, you want to be with each other. But I also wonder what his perception of balance looks like and whether that really aligns with hers. Because she's kind of saying, like, we've spoken about it, he knows how I feel, I'm also trying to respect what he's going through, but it's like she's kind of mixing the two, I think, maybe. Is it that he needs balance or you need balance? Do you know what I mean?
I feel like she's saying, I need him to come back.
Yeah, she is. But she's posing it as, I think he needs balance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So the onus is on him to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he should figure it out, what balance means.
Yeah.
And is that right or wrong?
Well, exactly. I think, as you said, maybe their ideas of balance are different.
Are different. Yeah.
Like, he might feel that at the moment, even though it is off kilter, that's working for him.
Yes.
Because seems like he's investing in himself at the moment.
Yeah.
And when I guess we do invest in ourselves, other things that may have been a priority will start to just slip a bit. Not saying that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's just part of those consequences.
Yeah.
And I think she's maybe feeling that consequence. That's why I'm saying I think she's stuck in that hard place of, I want to celebrate him and all that he's doing, and he's following his passions, and I want that for him, but I really miss him.
Yeah.
And I want more of him, but I want him to see that. I want it to come from him, that he's recognizing this is out of balance and he needs to reprioritize a bit.
Yeah. Do you think that's fair to put that on him?
Honestly, if she was in my therapy room, I would say no. We can't change him, love.
Yeah, I think you can kind of you can express your expectations and you can express your needs within the relationship and what you feel the relationship needs as well. And it's for the other person to say, yeah, I agree, or actually, no, I see things in a different way. And then the onus then comes back on you to, can I see this through? Can I tolerate this for a time? Or actually, is this just too unbearable for me and we're not actually going to be aligned in the future?
But I feel like they've done that. So she's saying that we've talked about it.
Yeah.
See, this is why I'm saying it's a contradiction.
Yeah.
And
You're not letting her up. We keep going round and round as well, don't we?
Oh my God, we're recreating it in here.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is what they feel. Like, they're having these conversations, they think they're getting somewhere, and then it's back to, but hang on a second, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Because that's what she's saying, isn't it? We're talking, but nothing's changing.
Yeah.
And I want more.
Yeah.
Or not if I even want more, I want you, it sounds like I want you back.
Yeah. I want something to change.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, I think you also have to really own it.
Yeah. And so I don't, when you said, like, what would you say to her? What do you think? I think that's what I was saying is she needs to own that. It's not on him to necessarily own it.
Yeah.
It's, she needs to be the one communicating, which I think she is, to say, yes, I know, I agreed to be patient, but I'm finding it really tough. Or I feel like we maybe need to talk about it again. Maybe it felt like it was resolved at the time, but I'm still going through it in my head.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's resolved.
Yeah. And it could be because something hasn't changed. But also I find this when working with couples, when one person feels like they have to keep repeating something and it's not changing and they keep coming back. But usually it's because the other person hasn't fully heard them.
Right.
So sometimes they can feel that if they feel really heard and validated, that's enough for them to say, okay.
That helps with tolerating, doesn't it?
It does. But if they don't feel like, no, you're not getting it, you're not hearing me, and they're like, well, I am.
Yeah.
And no. So there's something about what it means to feel heard and what that looks like for this person.
When we were just talking, I at times felt like we weren't hearing each other.
I know.
Did it feel like that to you?
Yeah.
I feel like we're recreating this couple.
Yeah. I know. It's so interesting.
And when I wasn't listening or when I wasn't hearing you, how did you feel?
A bit like confused, like, no, like as if something wasn't clear.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, I felt like I have to explain myself again.
Yeah,
she's not getting it. I had to, like, am I not getting it? It then made me question myself. Am I not getting it? Am I not saying this correctly?
Yeah. Should we say a bit about for people that necessarily aren't privy to these mirrors and recreation in therapy and like where this kind of comes from?
Yeah.
So I would say this comes more from our psychodynamic
training.
Thank you. Where we think about how some things can be projected, how some things can be replayed, and how we can really embody like what's going on for the client in the client room.
Yeah, we can often become a canvas and an empty vessel in the therapy room for clients where, especially when we give nothing of ourselves away, that they can come in and project whatever they need to onto us, into us, and it can evoke quite strong feelings in us as a therapist. But I think the great thing about our training is obviously we've been in therapy for 3 years ourselves, so we have quite good awareness of what's our stuff and what's a client's stuff. But this is sometimes like one of my favourite ways of working.
I know, you love it.
I love it so much. Because when you get that feeling, like how we were getting now, I'm like, and you don't necessarily get it straight away. No. It might take like a few sessions. But it gives you so much information.
Yeah.
It's so meaty. It's so juicy. And the conversations and the learning and the awareness that can come out of it with a client can be profound.
Yeah.
Profound.
Yeah.
And I said that's why I was quite keen to name it with you.
You love it, don't you?
I love this way of working. I really did love it at university as well.
You did?
Yeah, when we did the training. It really spoke.
It really resonated with you?
Yeah, it really did resonate. What was your favourite way of training at uni when you were learning?
Good question. I think my favourite way of working was just being authentic and just being radically myself in the room with clients and bringing our relationship into the fore. I love working like that. So talking about how I'm also feeling, not that I make the therapy about me, but I think it can give good context for a good information for the other person if you respond from a place of, this is what I'm picking up. This is how I'm also feeling in the room with you. Are you aware of this? Like, what do you make of that? Or I said this. What do you think of that? Do you agree with what I said? Are you just people pleasing right now? Or do you want to tell me that you don't like what I said? Because then it gives us a chance to address the relationship in this room.
Because that's the best vehicle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, test it out in the room. And if you can build that trust and that safety for your client to trust you, so that they can start testing out their different ways of behaving that's healthier for them, and they know you're not going to abandon them, then that gives them the skills to then go and try it out there
with other people.
Exactly. One thing I was actually going to ask you though is, how do you know when you have that feeling? Like, where do you feel it?
Like when I'm being radically honest, radically me.
Yeah, when you're being authentic. How does it feel to you?
I think I just feel it everywhere. I tell you what. When I feel like I do not have the freedom to be myself and to address elephants in the room, things that are so clear, but I'm like, I'm not sure if they can tolerate us going there yet. I feel sleepy. Which is weird. I feel sleepy in the room, and it's like I'm struggling to stay awake because it's like I'm being made useless, being rendered useless in the room. So it's like I just start to shut down. It's like I'm being killed off in a way.
So your authenticity energizes you?
It does, yeah.
I saw that now as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely come alive in the room, but when I feel like I'm not being allowed to be useful to this person right now, my energy just shuts down.
And those sessions can be really hard, can't they? Because they still need that.
Yeah.
They still need that
to use me in that
time.
way.
Yeah, and that can be really hard because you don't feel useful.
Yeah.
Or in that moment, you don't feel useful.
Yes, exactly. But then this is why it's great that we have peer supervision. We have supervision with our supervisors, our clinical supervisors as well.
Shout out to P.
Yeah, shout out to...
Love him.
He's great. So I can really voice this there. Then it's like, okay, how can I bring myself back again? How can I begin to be useful again to this client? Or how can I feed back to them in a way how their behavior, their passive aggression usually in a way, shuts down us working together?
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense for people.
I think it does.
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I hope that has been a helpful answer.
I think so. I think sometimes our answers to these dilemmas, they just spark different ideas for us, don't they? Whether they're personal, professional.
Yeah.
And just linking it back to, I mean, I haven't thought about how we trained in that way for quite a while. When we were both just saying it, it just made me start having those thoughts again.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
Yeah. Because I guess we're both at this point now in our careers where it feels so authentic the way we work. It's not necessarily, by the book or being informed in a specific way. It just feels quite natural. So it's still quite nice to sometimes go back to those.
I know. Go back to the
theories and ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Yeah. I think you've got it, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I do. So this comes from a lady in her 30s, and she says, I've just had a baby and I'm trying to navigate this new time. I feel as though I'm forming a relationship with my baby, but everyone has an opinion. I'm struggling with my in-laws who are constantly telling me how to mother my baby. My husband sees it but doesn't necessarily say anything as he's quite conflict averse, but he agrees with how hard it is for me. How should I deal with my in-laws?
Oh, first thing, I just want to empathise. I'm like, I feel like I want to protect her. So she's nurturing this baby, and it feels like she also needs someone to really advocate for her and protect her in a way. So the first thing I want to do is really empathise with her and just say, I'm really sorry that you're feeling like this. And at a time that is quite a vulnerable time.
I was going to say, it's so fragile and
vulnerable. So fragile. I mean, very exciting, very beautiful time, but also very tender that you feel a little bit unsheltered right now. And I'm sorry that has been your experience. And it's so hard. Family, oof, Yeah, family can be difficult to navigate, especially extended family and in-laws, because you have two lives merging together, two histories and two cultures. And I don't just mean culture in terms of like a racial culture, but generational culture, but just the culture of the families trying to merge can be really hard. I want to hope that your in-laws are trying to be helpful and their intention is good, not to control you out of thinking that they know best and you know nothing, but they're generally wanting to be of help and of use. However, even if that is their intention, how you feel is still valid. I feel like it sounds like you feel like I'm not trusted to kind of make the decisions on my own, that I'm learning about my child. I'm not free to just be trusted with that. And also, I'm not feeling supported by my husband, even though he agrees with how I'm feeling. That's really, really tough. It sounds like two conversations are needed. One with your husband and one with your in-laws as well. Because it's really important that you communicate how you feel. Even if they may have differing opinions, it's still okay to voice how you feel, that even though you want to trust that their intentions are lovely, but in spite of that, this is how I feel. And like a renegotiation needs to take place about what it looks like to be supportive of you and your baby.
I think, you know, just following on from what you said with that, you know, when you have a baby, your life literally is turned upside down and upside down and upside down. Like, constantly. Every day is a different experience, especially in those like really first few early weeks. And I think, you know, what's hard about this is she's probably second guessing herself anyway. You know, like there's no motherhood, there's no manual for motherhood.
No. People try.
Yeah, but
to have manuals.
Do you know what's really interesting? When I was going to have my first baby and I was about to go on maternity leave. A few of my clients actually said to me, "Oh my God, your child is so lucky for the mother that they're going to get." Like, so lucky. Because obviously, like in a professional setting, they're getting that from me. In a therapeutic way. But even as a psychologist, it cannot prepare you for motherhood. So I just want to put that out there. Right? So I second guessed myself. And I have this training and this developmental understanding. And, you know, you've got these hormones raging through you, you're sleep deprived, you probably haven't eaten, you're leaking in different places. You know, you are in such a raw physical and mental state. And so, as you said, I feel like all she needs is someone to just be this ball of cotton wool. And say, "You're doing amazing. You're great. This baby is lucky."
And so if that's what she needs, maybe we want to encourage her to ask for that.
And to ask for that. And also, I think sometimes one of the hard things about when new relationships form is we might know what we want, and we also are maybe not going to get it. So I wonder, yes, I think it's great to, you know, reconfigure and ask for the support. You know, hopefully she's definitely going to get it from her husband, but she might not get that kind of support from her in-laws. You know, are they emotionally literate enough to take that on board? Because not everyone is.
That's
and
true.
That's not a fault of them. So I wonder if there's also maybe something about acceptance and boundaries. So if she can't necessarily get the support from them, how does she still protect herself and keep herself, you know, boundaried from those comments?
Like a buffer.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to, again, what she needs is that comfort, that security, that reassurance. And if she can't get it from her husband, but it sounds like he's in agreement.
I think what she's saying, she gets it. Let me read it. I think what she's saying is, I get it from him.
Yeah.
But I think what she wants is maybe him to advocate for her.
Yeah. Yeah. But if she can't.
Yeah. Or he can't.
If he can't also.
Yeah.
Then maybe she can also find a way to say, this is what, okay, if you can't do this, if you can't step in between your family and me, can you at least reassure me that I'm doing a good job? Can you at least let me feel like I'm doing the best that I can, that we've got this.
Yeah.
And even if people are saying or putting forward their suggestions, we don't actually have to implement them.
No. Because I think people always do, don't they?
Yeah. Unsolicited advice, right? Yeah. We can just say thank you. Oh yeah, we might think of that. Oh yeah, we might try that. But actually behind closed doors, you're going to do something that works best for you.
Yeah. It seems like what's happening is that this unsolicited advice is lingering onto her somehow. Like it's somehow creeping in.
So maybe she needs permission from us, from everyone else, to say it's okay. It's okay to hear it and to also let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay to trust yourself and to trust your instincts at this precious time.
I think definitely trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Definitely trust them here, because nobody knows best apart from you. And with any experience of having a relationship, whether it be with a newborn or a partner or a new friend or a colleague, like there's no way of knowing how to get it right, is there? Like relationships aren't about getting it right. Relationships are about the process, the experience,
figuring it out,
the intricacies,
the mess. Yeah.
There's beauty in mess.
Yeah. So take this as your kind of permission to really stand true to what you feel is right. Even in the therapy room, that's what we do, right? Like I think we may have mentioned this in previous podcasts. You are the expert in your life. We may have suggestions, maybe not. Maybe we're just here to guide you through you kind of finding the answers yourself.
We ask the questions.
We ask the questions, but you're the expert. You're in your body 24/7. You know what it's like. So have that permission to own like your voice, actually.
Why do you think people look for permission to own their voice? What do you think that's about?
I think previously they've been given the information implicitly or explicitly that their voice doesn't count, that their voice is wrong. And they have reason to doubt themselves. Yeah.
Because I guess opinions and doubt, they kind of go hand in hand, don't they? Like when you're more sure of yourself and someone gives you an opinion, you're quite more likely to shrug it off.
Yeah.
And not even like think about it later.
Yeah.
But I think when you're already doubting yourself and someone gives you an opinion, then that's when the analysis, it seeps in. The analysis starts happening. You overthink it, and I can imagine. And I also don't think she's the only mum to go through this.
No,
so I hope that you can get comfort in that probably lots of women have felt this before, are feeling this, are going to feel it. So for everyone out there who might be becoming an in-law at some point, hold it back.
Keep it in mind.
I hope that you can take away, especially from this, that you're not alone. So thank you so much for sharing that dilemma, because I also think a lot of new mums will appreciate hearing that too, because it's a hard time, and it can be quite a lonely time as well. So well done for reaching out. We appreciate you. What did you learn today?
I learned that, do you know what? I learned something about your vulnerability here today, and how you know, so courageous to be vulnerable, but how important it is to share at times from your experience, to really validate people and for people to feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. So I really appreciated your vulnerability in sharing about, you know, your doubts as a first-time mum. And even in spite of appearing to have it all together and having all the answers, you can have doubts too. And so of course other people will. So yeah, so I've learned something from your vulnerability that hopefully other people have learned from as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that.
It's all right.
That's really kind.
What have you learned today?
So what I've learned is that recreation that happened between me and you.
Yeah.
I really learned there that sometimes we, in our minds, we think that we might be communicating something in a specific way, and we're getting frustrated at the other person that they're not hearing us, but they might be feeling the exact same way. So it's kind of made me think about, you know, the importance of talking about communication. Not necessarily communicating per se, but have you heard me? What do you think I might be trying to say to you? This is how I'm feeling. Does that come across to you?
Yeah.
And getting maybe more into the intricacies of that at times.
Yeah, I think that's so key. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you guys learnt today? Please let us know in the comments below. We love reading them and hearing from you. And remember to like and subscribe down below and on our socials. Thank you for joining us on the floor today, and we're looking forward to seeing you really soon. But for now, it's bye from me, Dr. Ritz.
And bye from me, Dr. Vicky. We'll see you on the floor soon. Bye.